Hello, everyone. A very good afternoon. We all have been using content to drive engagement, but with all the new challenges around, is that enough? Post pandemic, the content marketer faces an ever increasing challenge from customer with their rising expectations and from business that want them to drive more revenue. And this is exactly what we are going to dig into over the next 60 minutes. Welcome to ET Brand Equities Adobe Experience Wednesday series once again. This time we are back with another critical fireside chat on content marketing, and it is my honor to introduce to you all today Mr. Ajay Kakar, Chief Marketing Officer, Aditya Birla Group, who will be quizzed by Mr. Gowtham Nallan, Solution Consulting Manager, Adobe. So I thank both the gentlemen for your time today. With that, may I kindly request Mr. Gowtham to start off today's discussion, please.
Thank you, Vaisakhi. May you live in interesting times. This old Chinese curse is very apt for several reasons to our world today. The journey we have taken over the past 2 years has left every one of us with some interesting stories to tell for years to come. And it has left a significant effect on us. But to what effect? This is the interesting question, isn't it? There's a widespread belief that some behavior changes have come into effect and these are going to be long lasting. Now, while at a personal level, these questions are important, it is as important or even more for the brands to try and understand this answer. How have their customers changed? What are the new expectations? And what new challenges and competition have cropped up? With lockdown easing at various levels and an earnest effort taken by all of us, the customers and the businesses to get a move on, the last 6 months have given us a clue on the nature of the post-pandemic customer and what brands need to do to engage them now. In short, we seem to be in a position to look ahead and hazard a guess on what is the new normal. We're fortunate to have with us one of the leading marketers in the season one, Ajay Kakar, the CMO of Aditya Birla Capital. Aditya Birla Capital was one of the organizations that under Ajay's leadership was better prepared to handle the recent challenges and have managed to do it quite well. In fact, very well based on their recently published results. And they continued to accelerate their digital initiatives over the last 2 years. I'm very excited to listen to him and get his perspectives on the changing nature of the customer, the challenges they impose on the brand marketers, and the strategies they adopt to engage customers and drive digital revenues. Hello, Ajay. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Hi, Gautam. Great to be here.
Ajay, we are where we are today, right? So the real question is based on what you have seen with your customers and your brand and your businesses over the past few years. Okay, has the customer really changed, right? If so, what's changed and how?
So Gautam, let me take your questions, this one and hereafter, in two capacities. One as a marketer, but two also as one of the customers that we all refer to, as all of us are. If you ask me, change is a way of life. We've always said that, and I have lived through within my generation a car called a Fiat and an option called an Ambassador, a color white and an option called black. Within the same lifetime, we have seen the emergence of a car called Maruti, which changed the look, the feel, the color, the thrill of owning a car. And today you have the world's best cars available at your doorstep in India for every price point. So this is one way of looking at a changing world, where I could say that the carpet has been swept from under our feet. On the other hand, the way I look at the same changing world today and in our near future, as a question that I put to Gautam and saying is, so Gautam, how have you enjoyed the last few decades being a citizen of the globe? Versus, Gautam, how would you like to live your life if you were on the moon? The first one may get a great answer. The second one may just get silence. Because you've heard of the moon, you've seen pictures of the moon, but you have no idea how is it to live in the moon or on the moon. So I think that's the dramatic change that we are facing now, not within a generation, but by weeks, days, and hours. And in this change, I think what's happened to the customer, I think the customer has started becoming unsure himself. He is more unsure today than yesterday. Or what is it that he wants? What is it that he needs? Or more important, because want and need starts from him, but the world is changing, so he doesn't even know what should he expect from companies or brands. And I think that has made him fickle. That has made him wanting choice. That has made him wanting simplicity and convenience. And most important, he wants relevance to him. What is right and relevant for me? Give it to me simply, give it to me conveniently, give me the choice, let me decide.
Very good. It's interesting that you said this, and I hope I'm quoting this correctly when you said about the car and the black. And I think it was Henry Ford, when they first asked him what color, do you provide the Model T? And he said, you can have any color as long as it's black. Now imagine, from there to where we are today. But there were a couple of interesting points that that you really, that you talked about, because this was going to be my next question, right? And you said the customer is unsure, because my next question was going to be, what do the customers really want? And what you just effectively said is they're not really sure, but what they know what they want in terms of they want choices. They want it to be, made simple and give it to them. And, they want it to be, made convenient. While, we talked about simplicity, choice, and convenience from a customer standpoint, all of this makes the brand marketer's life, very, very complicated, right? So the question to you is, how do the marketers understand, what is this customer? What are they really looking at? Because you've got so many different types of segments. We are no longer talking about segments. We're talking about micro segments, right? We're talking about, hyper personalization, and things like that, right? One is to one individualization is what we're not talking about, right? And then the customers are also, in addition to the products, they're also holding the brands to higher standards. Correct. So, from a marketer standpoint, how are they expected to understand all of this and respond, making it, to those three things that you talked about? An unsure customer, but needs choices in a simple way, in a convenient way. How should the brand marketer understand all this and respond?
So, my view is that the marketer's task has always been the same and will remain the same. The first question or the starting point, I guess, is who is the customer? Or if I may be more specific, who is my customer? And let me give you an example. When Nano launched its car, it assumed that everyone who owned a two-wheeler or aspired for a four-wheeler is their audience. I can also look at financial services in the same way, as that every citizen of the globe either has money or needs money, and therefore is my customer. That's one perspective, but I think that's the wrong perspective. Each brand, each business has to decide who is their customer, who is right for their product or services, and their products and services are meant for whom. And therefore, there are two questions I would assume every marketer should have an answer to. One is, who is my customer? Within that, who do we value? And within that, what does that customer value? If you have answers to these three questions, you will be able to tailor-make for your valued customer what he values. And the normal assumption is, well, I have a product, you will have a need. That, unfortunately, I think is not true yesterday, today, or tomorrow. I have to decide how valuable is my product, my service, or my offering for him, and then decide. And therefore, it could be relating to product, it could be relating to the proposition, to the channel, the communications, or the timing. I think you have two questions to answer in this context. Why me? Why my brand versus the competitive brands and the huge plethora of competition that every category seems to throw up today for the consumer? Or if I wear the customer's hat, what's in it for me? Why should I buy your product? Whether it's the brand, the category, or the specific offering. And that's where I think personalization or hyper-personalization comes in. And I like to keep that word aside. N=1, great word to have. It is what we as marketers may understand faster. But if I wear it in a consumer's hat, there are many brands across categories who have this positioning of, we are there for you. We care for you. We understand you. We know you. We are here for you. I think the N=1 can never be addressed, whether through communications or in reality, if that's the stance we take. because then we are making a sweeping statement that all of you are the same. On the other hand, if I have a positioning and Aditya Birla Capital believes in that positioning, we are mere enablers. And therefore, you know yourself the best. You know who you are, you know what you want, you know what makes you unique. And if I understand you well, and that's of course where data comes in, and that's where analytics comes in. And therefore, and then what is the brand positioning? If I enable you to live the life you desire, being the purpose at Aditya Birla Capital, I enable you. Tell me what is you want. It starts with you, it has to end with you. And therefore, I have to have as a marketer a unique offering, a relevant offering, a simple and convenient offering, but most important, I have to give choice, keeping the competitive set in mind. And today, for example, competition is not category, and I'm talking about myself or my category. A mutual fund does not compete against another mutual fund. A life insurance company does not compete against other life insurance companies. One, they compete against each other because today a life insurance can offer a proposition which is very close to a health insurance. A mutual fund can offer a proposition which is very close to a life insurance. But more important, if I'm not so self-centric, my category is one of the options that the customer has. He may prefer a holiday to investing. He may prefer a purchase to taking a loan and purchasing. So therefore, understanding the choices that a customer has and then giving him what he wants as if it is what he asked for, I imagined it and gave it to him before he could say Jack Robinson.
One of the most important thing that I really like there is, the fact what you call the marketer is an enabler, right? I don't think I hear that enough from the marketers, and I think that's a very, very important takeaway. And another thing that you mentioned about the choice, right? In the art of choosing, right? She says there's a choice as a cultural element to it, and I think it's important to understand the concept of choice from an Indian perspective, right? And our culture and the Indian customer perspective, rather than simply or blindly adopting what the options and the hyper personalization techniques that we see in other markets, right? Now, as much as we talk about what the customer wants and the challenges that imposes, from a marketer standpoint, these are not the only challenges that you face, right? There's a lot of stuff about privacy and consent, right? There's a lot that's been talked about for the last, for 2 years around this cookieless world, and how we all interpret that. There's a lot of challenges, and I think you yourself mentioned it in one of our conversation about the challenges that the new, fintech companies trying to, throwing up tech companies trying to get into finance, right? And all of the new channels and the new models of engagement. So there is just myriad challenges that the marketer today faces. Now, in your opinion, based on where we are in the Indian context and the Indian customer, what do you see are the top, 3 or 5? I'm not going to impose any restrictions, but what are the top challenges that a marketer faces today? And what is your advice on what they need to do?
So the first thing I would urge marketers to think of them as not only enablers, but if I may say, the invisible hand. You've seen stores where if you entered in, you would have a salesman follow you from counter to counter. And at some place you feel claustrophobic. And you've seen stores which as a strategy have somebody where you can catch his eye and he can catch yours, but he's at a distance only when you need him. So when you talk about data and you talk about privacy, I think you have to be that invisible hand. I have to know you without stating on the face that, hey, I know you, I understand you, this is who I am, this is why I am, and therefore I have access to your data, and therefore I know who you are. Just imagine the first time I had a pre-filled form. I was so delighted. How did this person know all my details? He didn't have to tell me that, hey, I accessed your data here, I accessed your data here. He may have taken my consent, but the use of that data is what delights me and will allow me to give consent tomorrow too. And therefore, if you give me what I want, wherever I want, whenever I want, that delight of getting it when I want it, how I want it, what I want is actually, I think, going to make that huge difference. And the fact that you're using my data from A, B, and C by itself will never get my consent. But if it is to make life convenient for me, to make life easy for me, why will I hold it back? So that's learning one. Can you make yourself the invisible hand? You are there when I need you. You are there for my benefit, but without shouting out loud that, hey, I know you because I have access to all your data. The second learning as a marketer, I would say that category actually makes no difference to a consumer. I gave you the example of life, health, or mutual, life insurance, health insurance, or mutual fund. But let me just give you an example today. Amazon was a substitute for a bookstore. And today, the fact that it gives me whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want, it does not, I don't hold it against Amazon. It just endears me more to Amazon. You have to be beyond the product. You have to be me and my needs. So if you come and tell me I have a product X, you're assuming I want to buy it. But at that time, I want to shop. At that time, I want to think of other things that influence me. So for example, if you give me a travel agent who tells me, buy a ticket today, I give you the best price, blah, blah, blah. But I may want to decide where to travel, why to travel, what do I do out there? How do I get my visa? What is the climate out there? What is the best time to go there? And therefore, I think the age of what we technically call aggregators or super apps has come in, where you cover the full need of a customer and not only the need pertaining to your product. That to me is the third pointer. The fourth is that, and COVID has taught us this, I can't reach you, you have to reach me. And therefore, can you create memorable experiences? Now I'm talking about a category like financial services, which you can't touch, you can't feel, you can't experience, you can't smell, you can't taste. So how do I create experiences? I am saying is sitting at home or wherever you want, I have to make you believe that that experience was so simple, so convenient, so endearing that you want to come back to me. The fifth one, and it's a big debate, I know we are all moving towards high tech. Again, I think it's an invisible hand. Technology should not speak. Technology should be experienced. And therefore, to that extent, those who want technology, and let's just broadly speak the youngsters, they will compare me with the best of class, best of category, best in the world. They're Googling 1 second, they're on Uber the second, they are on Zomato the third, and they may be on a financial services site 1 second later. So for them, it's a comparison horizontally. And for somebody who may be a little more gray haired or a first timer, for him, he just wants simplicity. And he wants to feel that once I have come, is that how simple it was? I want to come again. You know, the children who get scared of a vaccination. And if done well, they say, oh, is that vaccination already done? I didn't even feel it. So I think high tech has to be experienced and not felt. And high touch will never go out of fashion. Today, I'm speaking to you across a screen. There is technology involved in that, and so much technology that I don't want to know and I will never understand. But I feel I'm talking to you across the table. And that's what I mean by high tech versus high touch. The last part I want to share with you, whether it's a human being, an individual, or a brand, I think the rules and definition of leadership have changed. Till yesterday, leadership was based on the past. And therefore, tenure of a brand in the market or a person in leadership position, the age, the experience, the gray hair, and therefore I might say the gut feel became a differentiator. Today, I think the era is there of you have to learn, you have to unlearn, or you have to relearn. And therefore, that does not mean that the youngsters make it happen. I'm saying the color of hair makes no difference. Whether you're young, whether you're middle-aged, or you're old, all your assumptions can be questioned every day. And therefore, if you ask me whether you're a brand or an individual, there is a democratization of leadership. Anyone can become a leading brand. Everyone can become a leading brand. Till yesterday, we said that brands are built over years and decades. Today, there are people who are getting into your life, getting into your wallet, getting into your heart in a matter of weeks and months, and they attain leadership. So therefore, I think these are the 5 or 6 mantras or learnings that I have experienced, and I would share that as a marketer or wearing a consumer hat.
I think those were very, very important and much needed insights. So, teeing off on a couple of areas that you talked about, right? especially around, you said memorable experiences. And the second thing which, struck me was, the fact that high touch will never go out of fashion and technology has to be, behind the scenes. What this basically means is the message is as important, right? And this, the engage to engage between the marketer and the customer, right? Now, this brings to me one of the points that you mentioned earlier in another, in another context, is the role of empathy from a marketer standpoint. Now, that doesn't change just because we are moving from, the traditional marketing to a digital marketing. Because when you say high touch is required, that means empathy also has a role to play. Correct. Now, we don't see that as often in the digital marketer world, right? There's a lot of discussion on understanding the data, understanding, doing hyper personalization. The notion of empathy from a marketer isn't as spoken about, but you think it is very important from a brand marketer standpoint, right? Can you elaborate on that, and how does it apply, even in the why you think it applies, or even, it's important even in the current context?
So again, let me give you an analogy when it comes to empathy. They talk about democracy being by the people, for the people, of the people. I think brands have to follow that philosophy. While I'm talking to 1 million people, or in any segment or in any cluster, there may be lakhs of people, I have to make everyone believe that I'm talking to only them. And that's when empathy comes. The minute I feel that you're giving me a generic offering, and I'll give you an example of, some newspapers carry the 12 sun signs. That is broadly segmented all citizens of the globe into 12. And everyone reads it with enthusiasm and believes it's relevant to him. And then the Indian way, which is a Janam Patri, right? I take very specific details from you, and basis that I tell you, you are fated for X or Y. I think you have to merge the two. And as marketers, you have to make people, based on learnings of everyone, based on some of the learnings or data I have about you, what do I predict about you, such that you yourself are surprised. How did you know that I wanted that? How did you know that I was just thinking of that? Therefore, I'm saying is by the people, for the people, and of the people, to surprise you and make you realize that before you thought of it, I thought of it. That creates empathy. That creates endearing empathy, and that creates a certain sense of repeat value or loyalty value, whether it be in the product, whether it be in the content, whether it be in the communication, or whether it be in the case of a brand as a whole.
Now, a couple of things that you talked about, earlier was around the, the concept of marketer being an enabler, right? We talked about the, the technology, the role that plays in this, it's getting a lot more complicated. Correct. Now, in all this, the marketer is not alone within the organization. He doesn't have to solve all these problems himself, right? So one of the, interesting opinions that you shared earlier was this convergence between the CTO, CFO, and the CMO within an organization, right? And when we engage with our customers, right? Earlier it used to be, from a vendor perspective, okay, talk to the CIO and they make the technology decision, or talk to the CMO and they make the tool decision. We are now seeing that confluence happen within organizations, to various levels depending on the nature of the organization. From your perspective, right? When you say that you see this convergence between the CTO, CFO, and the CMO, right? Can you share with us what exactly do you see happening in the industry, and why is this important, and what is the impact, or how is it going to influence or shape things to come?
So I've heard this for a while about the CMO and CTO and the role convergence. Again, I'll keep the technicality out of it. Let me just wear like I'm calling it a consumer hat. The CMO is supposed to be the closest to the customer, and the customer must be a start of everything that happens. On the other hand, a CTO may be closest to the latest technology. If you give me what the latest technology has to offer, does not necessarily mean that I want it, I need it, or even I expect it. And I'm giving a totally different category as an example. You give me the best cuisine in the world, but if it carries the word non to vegetarian, I'm a vegetarian, it means nothing to me. You give me a Michelin starred restaurant's top of the pops dish, but it's non-veg and I'm not interested in it. So therefore, I look at the CMO and the CTO mindsets coming together. I will never be a CTO. At least personally, I feel that's a limitation. I get lost when you talk technology. And I'm assuming a technology person is going to say, "Mudde ki baat karo yaar. Tell me what you want from me." To expect him to have the same sensitivity that you are expecting from a CMO may not be true. And therefore, I'm quoting something which I think Steve Jobs said, that you got to start with the customer. You got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to technology. And therefore, the CMO CTO alliance, to me, if you ask me, is stronger today than ever because technology is changing every day. But relevant technology provided in a relevant way, I think is something that they need to work together. But the other realization that I have, and I'm sharing that with you, is that at the end of the day, if you don't wear a CFO hat, so I'll give you the best feature in the world, the best experience in the world, and I suffer a loss. No one's going to buy that. No shareholder is going to buy that. You have to have an entrepreneurial mind, and saying is, I have to have a P&L and a balance sheet approach to anything that I do to a customer through technology. By that, what I mean is, I have to have a P&L approach. I spend today, I reap today. But many marketers will say, oh, you have to invest first. How? Okay, then fine, have a balance sheet approach. I invest today, but in year 3, this is what you will get out of it. And these are the milestones you can track me on through the 3 years. It's not a dead investment. Today, put it and then cry after 3 years if I don't deliver. So therefore, I'm saying is CMO, that is customer first, CTO, an enabler to a CMO, and the final litmus test, does it pass the financial sense test? You need these 3 mindsets together. Individually, we are all possibly chalk and cheese, but collectively, you ensure success.
And I think, the kind of problems that we are trying to solve really requires these 3, institutions to come together within an organization, right? Or it's not going to be a problem that a single, any one of them is going to be able to solve independently. Now, as much as these 3 partners, they partner, to solve these problems, organizations are not alone, right? You have a number of, external partners, external agencies like, vendors like Adobe, for example, who partner with us, who, with organizations such as yourself. We bring in the, not only the latest trends, but also the experiences that we have shared globally as well as with other customers, right? Now, all of this means, that there is a certain amount of input, right, from various sources that goes into an organization. Correct. And all of this means it's food for thought. Correct? One of the things that we have, Adobe has had a long relationship with AB Capital, and one of the things that we are very proud of is you're an early adopter from a digital perspective, and your digital initiatives was not merely a knee-jerk reaction to the pandemic. It's actually a well thought out strategy that started much earlier than that, right? Now, so a lot of your success that you've had during the pandemic and the reason your organization has been able to weather the storm, right, and in fact thrive in it, is because of that preparedness, right, that you put in place a long time ago. Now, coming back now, right, how should, I'm where I am as a marketer today, right? What should I be preparing myself for, right? I know this is a difficult question I'm asking you to say, what is going to come in the future, but how are you preparing your organization, yourself, right? From a training perspective, from a marketing perspective, what should I do today to prepare myself for, maybe the next foreseeable future?
So let me tell you the thoughts that come to my mind when you ask this question. The first I would say is, and I'm quoting David Ogilvy, that entertain the spirit as an organization or as a marketer of divine discontent. Whatever you do, whatever you've achieved, believe that there is a further peak that is tempting you, that is inviting you, that is challenging you. So the first take home I'm saying is divine discontent. The second manifestation of that is that always believe that you're on the starting block of a race. You're just waiting for that gun to go click. And you're on that starting block perpetually. The third is you have to have that ear to hear the gunshot, which says the race is started. In this case, you have to always have the ears on the ground to what the customer has said or unsaid. The fourth, I believe, is we very often forget it. We rely on research and we rely on AI and analytics and technology. The fact is that I'm also a customer. Especially in my category, I always believe that if you are not from my category, so what? You're a consumer of my category. You know what my customer wants. And if you're yet not part of my category, then you know why are you not part of my category. So the fact is, like I said, you are also a customer. The fourth one I'd like to believe is, like they say about the Red Indians, they can put their ear to the ground and they can hear what is coming your way. And as a marketer, if you have a sense of what is coming before it has come. And the last, of course, is having had that sense, which I believe we are very fortunate at Aditya Birla Capital. Our chief executive thought of ABC 2.0 before we sat down and relaxed at ABC 1.0. And I think that's the preparedness and then the speed to market. It's that combination of being prepared for what you don't even know is going to happen. You are anticipating with your ears to the ground, and then speed to market. So these would be the mantras I think all of us have to keep back of our mind as marketers or as organizations.
And it's interesting that you took that analogy of, keeping the mind, the ears to the ground, because, all this technology and all of this doesn't really take away the marketer's primary thing, which is his instinct and his, the empathy that you talked about and the gut. In fact, Adobe's position when people ask us about hey, the role of, AI, especially, right, if you look at the kind of AI capabilities that is being introduced into our products, either in terms of, content creation, experience delivery, or even in terms of the data, right? Our position is that, hey, it's not human intelligence versus, artificial intelligence. It is human intelligence augmented by, artificial intelligence. And that's what it's always going to be. And I think from a marketer standpoint, I think those words are absolutely true, right? Really appreciate the time you have given us today, right? And I think two things stand out for me, right, from everything that you said. One is that you have given us lots of points to think about, right? And I think those are very crucial, and that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to talk to you. And the second one is that last 2 years has been quite challenging and depressing, right? And every conversations that we have had with everybody has been like, oh, we don't know what's happening, we don't really know, we have to wait and see. But today's conversation, listening to you, was all about hey, things are churning. There's a lot of churn, there's a lot of change, and there's a lot of positivity, right, that comes up. Lots of interesting challenges and interesting things to look forward. I think that positivity is something that I'm going to, this is the second thing that I will take away from this meeting. So really appreciate your time. I'm pretty certain that our audience will find this as interesting and as useful as I found today. Thank you, Ajay.
Thank you, Gautam. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Ajay and Mr. Gautham. It was indeed an informative discussion, and the anecdotes shared will definitely help brands across categories in solving their content marketing challenges. But we are not done yet. For up next, we have Mr. Sandeep, MD, Senior Solution Consulting, Adobe, who will take a deep dive into the subject further with an intriguing presentation. So with that, over to you, Mr. Sandeep.
Thank you, Baisakhi. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Hope you had heard a very informative session from Gautham and Ajay. I'm sure everyone would have heard this on content is the king. And today's topic is stop using content to drive engagement, use it to drive revenue. And I'm Sandeep, Senior Solution Consultant, Content Strategy. And I do not think there is a need for an introduction to cricket and IPL. IPL started off in 2008, and we have had 14 IPL so far. If you think that the growth of cricket in the last 14 years was all about IPL, here are some quick bites about that. Cricket started evolving, and cricket evolved from test matches to one days to T20s. But if you really think about it closely, the essence of cricket remained the same. So what has IPL as a platform given to cricket? IPL has opened up new avenues to the cricketing fraternity. IPL has become the supreme platform for cricket, and it has helped cricket and the organizations in terms of generating revenue. And IPL brought in a plethora of opportunities to grow the revenue. 6+ event sponsors, 1 title sponsors, 100+ sponsors across IPL teams, and 20+ match day events. And not just that. If you look at it, what does all this mean? It is simple. IPL opened up new avenues to kind of generate new places of revenue. And not just that, it brought in more flavors to cricket to make the game more appealing. Things like fantasy leagues, fan engagements, cheerleaders, merchandising, virtual clubs, and so on. And if you think why all this, you will understand that these are new avenues to mark growth for cricket. That said, let's switch gears. Many of you would have seen now why Sandeep is thinking or hooked up on IPL and cricket. But today's topic is all about content and how that must drive your revenue. Look at the activities on the slide. Most of us daily would be doing one or more activities that is listed over here. But what are we trying to do here? We experts are trying to bridge the gap between the content that is there, or probably the brands that produce the end product, and we kind of bridge that gap to how we sell it, right? And what is it? That's the current state, right? We do this day in, day out. And while we do this, if you recollect what was mentioned in the previous slide, we are doing all this just for creating new content, promoting new content, creating more engaging content, optimize and strategize on content again to make it more appealing. At the same time, go and analyze what has been happening, make those changes, and do best. And why do we do all this? A simple objective, right? Marketing. So what it means for us is all about content. And if you take a step back, now at least, if you have understood why the slide started off with cricket and IPL, you would understand that for cricket, IPL was that one platform which made that difference and took cricket to the next peak. And so if you actually look at it, for content, unfortunately or fortunately, we kind of lack a platform which is similar to IPL today. And if you should feel happy right now, because there is a platform which can power your content, and it is none other than Adobe Experience Manager. But before going any further, let us understand what is the biggest problem that needs to be solved. Today, you're running a siloed system or probably a siloed state due to the absence of an omni-channel CMS. There are multiple repositories, as you see, or many tiny CMSs to manage your needs. And finally, what it does, it gives you a difficult situation in measuring and analyzing the performance of the content. But how do we solve this? We need to move to a centralized omni-channel platform, which can provide you an omni-channel CMS. There should be a single source of truth for your content. And if it gives you a platform, it should help you to analyze the performance and measure the performance of the content very easily. And who does that? Or who is that centralized omnichannel which can provide this? That's Adobe Experience Manager. Adobe Experience Manager delivers connected digital experience across all channels. And how is that possible? It has 4 major pillars to deliver the same. The first pillar is the sites. Sites helps to easily compose and deliver digital experiences across different touch points. And assets. Assets, for that matter, help us to create, manage, and deliver assets at scale. And then forms for multi-channel digital enrollments and customer communications. And finally, screens for bringing in that interactive experience at physical locations. And all this gets the flavor of experience intelligence, thanks to Adobe Sensei, our Adobe's own artificial intelligence tool. Now let's take a quick watch of a short video.
The more customers, the merrier. But in today's world, more customers means more personalized experiences, which might feel more overwhelming than merry, especially when you think about all the content that's required to create and deliver those experiences. Adobe is uniquely positioned to help. We give marketers and developers the tools they need to create, reuse, and update content so you don't always have to start from scratch, making content management a breeze. Our AI and machine learning will help ensure your experiences look and function perfectly across every screen, activation, channel, device, intranet, and more, no matter where you or your customers are in the world. You might have heard of some of our content creation tools. If you haven't, your creative team certainly has. Our digital asset management system and our work management system integrate with our creative cloud apps, like Photoshop. This takes teamwork to a new level by allowing teams across your organization to find, deploy, modify, approve, and measure content, no matter who creates it. This is magnified even more with our cloud-native service for content management and digital asset management. It's the first of its kind. You will never have to worry about maintenance or crazy updates because the latest and greatest features will always be current. With enterprise-grade security, global performance, and an architecture designed to respond in seconds to the unexpected, you'll be prepared for whatever comes your way. No matter how many millions of customers need personalized experiences along their journey, you'll have more to give with more ease and more efficiency. With Adobe, more really is merrier for all.
So that's Adobe Experience Manager for you. So you can now say that IPL brought the difference or different flavors into cricket and increased the opportunity of generating revenue. Likewise, Adobe Experience Manager brings that different flavors into your content. And let us see how we do that. Adobe Experience Manager can power your experience across all touch points, and AEM is a true omni-channel CMS. AEM brings to you a modern and flexible cloud-native experience environment which can deliver personalized experience at will. And the entire scheme of things that we need to get it done easily gets managed at single place, which is Adobe Experience Manager. Starting from sourcing, creating content, to managing that and assembling it as per what is needed at the end is something that gets managed at Adobe Experience Manager. And Adobe Experience Manager provides that X factor to the content to expand into the journey towards driving more revenue. And all this is achievable because Adobe delivers or believes on the 4 innovation pillars, which is powered by the core capabilities which only Adobe Experience Manager delivers at scale. Faster time to market, powered by experience optimization, omni-channel experience, content driving for revenue, and basically what it means for you is it is not just delivering experience across digital assets, but it also helps you to drive different potential revenue opportunities. And Adobe's business impact says it all. We powered faster time to market by 66%, increased efficiency of the teams by 23%, and increased top line revenue by 10%. And Adobe has been delivering this for the last 10 years without failure. Many players visited and vanished while Adobe was continuously delivering the value. And Adobe stayed at the epicenter of the Forrester wave for web content and digital asset management. You could see that yourself. No player is even close to us. And before we close, I want to reiterate what we started off. Potential of a cricket was brought to light by the fullest by IPL. And in the same case, content or the potential of the content is something that can be brought out by Adobe Experience Manager. And there is a saying like this: content build relationships, relationship build on trust, and trust build revenues. And we want to reiterate once more, stop using content to drive just digital experience or digital engagement. Use it to drive revenue as well. I will leave you with this. A big thank you. Signing off, Sandeep, over to you. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Sandeep. And with this presentation, we come to the end of today's session. I'm sure our audiences today has garnered a lot of information from the fireside chat between Mr. Gowtham and Mr. Ajay, and the follow-up presentation could not have been any better. So with that, I thank all the three gentlemen once again for giving us their valuable time today. At the same time, thank you all our audiences for staying with us throughout the session today. I am Vaishakhi signing off for the day. Thank you.